God called Jeremiah while he was still in his mother's womb. The unborn child is very important to Sandy Shoshanni too. She works with an organization called Hyme. I spoke with her and I asked her what is Hyme.
Bethlehem is a pro-life organization based here in Israel. Our goal is to help pregnant women who are in a crisis pregnancy, however we're able to do that. We help those women. Firstly, they phone into our counselors. We have counselors in 4 different cities in Israel. We're about to open 2 more centers. We have in Jerusalem, Beersheba, Tiberias, the Krayot of Haifa. We're about to open offices in Ashkelon and in Nazareth. When a girl calls the crisis line, she's able to ask any questions she'd like to about her pregnancy, about abortion information, the dangers of abortion, about how to become pregnant, any kind of question that we could help her with. Then we normally invite her to our office to enable to watch a DVD about baby development, to do a free pregnancy test. We're about to buy an ultrasound machine in order to help her to have an ultrasound in the first trimester. We basically offer any help we're able to offer, including a shelter if she needs to find another place to live. We obviously offer a lot of help after the birth. During the pregnancy, we can offer the girl somebody who'll go along with her to the pregnancy test, somebody who'll encourage her, somebody who'll give her all the direction she needs, and pamphlets, books, materials, guidance. Also, we're able to offer her here in Jerusalem a doula, which is a birth coach who goes with her to the birth. Often also our counselors will go with her during the birth or offer any possible kind of help they can in terms of support. After the birth, we're able to offer the girl equipment for her baby. We have a new project, it's called Operation Moses, whereby a family abroad is able to adopt the Israeli mother and her new baby, and they can offer her a baby bed, a bath, a stroller, car seat, carry-on chair, basically anything that mother's going to be needing for her baby, including blankets and bottles. And we have a really wonderful package that we give that new mother so that she doesn't have to feel afraid. And then during that first year of the baby's life, until the baby's 1 year old, the mother will receive diapers monthly and formula if she needs it. So we really are here to provide the mother with anything she can in order to keep that baby alive.
So what sort of women are having abortion here in Israel?
Well, here in Israel we have about 40,000 abortions yearly. We have about 20,000 that are paid for by the government, and another 20,000 that are private abortions. The 20,000 paid for by the government are primarily women who are either under 18, or women over 40, or women who are in some kind of crisis situation. Many times it would be a single mother who has no income, but normally the easiest way to get an abortion is to just be under that age or over 40. And here in Israel, 24% of the soldiers who go into the army are becoming pregnant, and out of that 24%, 75% are going to choose for an abortion. And the army makes it very, very simple to have an abortion. It's actually economically convenient for the army to encourage the abortion, so that those girls will have as much as 2 to 3 abortions free, paid for by the army, without any questions really being asked. And the other half of the women who are having abortions, so I'm saying half of the women who would have an abortion are primarily single women, either younger or older, or single who are unable to keep their baby, but the other half of the women would be married women with their husbands together have decided that they don't want another child. And often that's for economic reasons, and that's why we've decided to start this Operation Moses to help them with their economic difficulties.
So why are women actually choosing to have abortion?
Why are they choosing? I would say primarily for convenience. They are unwilling. If they're in a situation where they're young, then they would have to make sacrifices for themselves, education or financial. Same applies to the married women. They're not wanting to sacrifice perhaps their occupation or their financial convenience, or often it's embarrassment, whatever it might be, but it's really a question of who's coming first, the child or the mother's personal needs.
So at what week does a fetus begin to look like a child? You know, you get the characteristics of a child.
Well, I would say, even at 3 weeks, that baby's heart is starting to beat. At 21 to 25 days, that heart is starting to beat. And the baby just becomes more and more looking like a person as it goes on. But at 8 weeks, that baby has every single organ in its body that it's going to need to live. It's a complete human being. And at 12 weeks, every organ in that body is starting to function. The digestive juices, the liver, That baby is just a miniature human being with every chromosome and every organ that it needs to be a person just like we are.
Mm. So what would you say to a woman who says, well, it's my body, I can do whatever I like with it?
Well, she's right, it's her body, and she should do what she likes with it before she becomes pregnant. She should consider seriously the consequences of premarital sex. She should know that there are a lot of consequences besides the possibility of sexually transmitted diseases, besides the problems that could accompany her with heartbreak, disappointments, the possibility of pregnancy. When two people come together, there's always that possibility of pregnancy, and she needs to consider that before she becomes pregnant. Once she's pregnant, well, it's her body, but it's another human being. That person inside her, for example, she's a woman. The person living inside her could be a little boy. That's definitely not her body. If it's a little boy, that's somebody else with his own set of chromosomes and genes, with his own characteristics, God-given plan for his life. In the Bible, you have God calling people even when they're in the womb to their ministries. You could see Jeremiah, Samson, many babies, the Lord Jesus himself, many babies were called. Even while in the womb, God had a plan for their lives. And that little baby has a call in his life from God, which is exclusive of his own mother.
Are there any risks to abortion physically and spiritually?
Yeah, there are risks in every way. A third of the women who've had an abortion will later on have some kind of difficulty with pregnancy. Some of them, of course, will remain infertile, but also in general there are many consequences physically to abortion. There could be a difficulty to carry the baby to full term. There's a much greater chance of having a premature baby if you've had an abortion previously. There's difficulty conceiving. The abortion itself could create various infections or perforation of the uterus. Could be problems with the fallopian tubes. This woman is not necessarily going to have an easy time. But besides the physical aspects, the emotional aspects are very difficult. The woman is not warned that after the abortion many times they suffer from a depression. There's a lot of bleeding that causes the woman to actually consider what she's done to the baby. That woman often perhaps will, so to speak, push the pain of the abortion under the rug, but then for some unknown reason she'll become depressed yearly at the time when she had the abortion, or maybe the time when the baby was due. Perhaps the woman won't experience any depression at that time, and then several years later when she's married and she goes to give birth and she has her own little baby and she looks at that ultrasound, as they say, the penny will drop and she'll say, oh my gosh, what have I done? I didn't realize that it really was a baby that I was pregnant with all those years ago. And so there's always that emotional aspect that could come up. And spiritually, of course, when a woman feels guilt, and I could say all the women I've met have felt guilt, when she feels guilty about what she's done, even if she's somehow pushed it aside into her subconscious, it's going to make a barrier between herself and God. And she needs to come to a place in her life where she says, Lord, I know I've done wrong, and I just want to accept your forgiveness and your love, and I want to move on from here. And I just want to say now that even the women who've had abortions, God is a loving God, he's a forgiving God, and she should come to him knowing that whatever she's done, there's a place for her to receive that forgiveness and to move on in her life.
So do you have any success stories about the work that you've been doing here?
Yeah, we've had a lot of wonderful things happen. I personally go out in the streets. Besides working in the office, I also go out in the streets. And yesterday morning, I was out in the street. Every Sunday, I go out to give our flyers to the soldiers, because there's thousands of soldiers going by on Sunday mornings, going back to their bases on their weekend, after their weekend off with their families. And yesterday morning, I saw a woman, probably around 50. She walked by and she yelled to me, oh, you're still at it, huh? I said, I'm not going to stop. I'm going to do just what I did for your grandson. I'll tell you what happened to her grandson. This woman had come by it was a year and a half ago now, and I gave her a flyer. She put that flyer, just shoved it into her bag. A few days later, her daughter came to her and said, Mom, my boyfriend's telling me I have to tell you that I'm going to have an abortion in a couple of days. Well, the mother pulled that flyer out of her bag and said, hey, look at what I got at the bus station the other day. Her daughter read that flyer, and she said, Mom, it's a sign. Now, these are not people who necessarily are walking with God, but the girl still said it's a sign from God. I'm not going to kill that baby. I know that this is a sign for me. The mother was so supportive, and the girl, in the end, decided to marry her boyfriend, whom she had been dating anyway for 3 years. She had that little baby, and now that little child is 10 months old, a beautiful, dark-skinned, bouncy little boy, and the mother and the grandmother and everybody are just so thrilled that they did that. And I'm just so thankful that I was standing there at that bus station that day And another story, last week a girl came here to our office, and this girl, I had been on the street, and she had just walked up to me at the bus stop, grabbed me and said, "What can you do for me?" She was 19 at the time, and I said, "What do you need?" She said, "I need a place to live. I just ran away from my husband because he was hitting me, and I'm pregnant, and I don't want this baby. I want an abortion. I don't know what to do with myself. I want somewhere to go. I don't know what to do." And I said, "Listen, we'll find you a place to live." In brief, we found her a place to live. We have various shelters, and she kept her baby. Her husband has changed. He's very kind to her now, very loving. She's reconciled with her husband. They now have a 4-month-old, very beautiful little baby. And this mother herself had suffered tremendously all her life, gone from foster home to foster home, and now she's being discipled by another woman who lives near her in the southern part of Israel. She's growing in her faith. She loves her baby and her husband, and she's just so thrilled that God has turned her life around entirely.
Mm. During the Holocaust, 6 million Jews were killed, and now there is a silent Holocaust happening. What's your prayer for this land, for the people here, the women here particularly?
I would say, Paul, in this nation of Israel, we've had 2 million babies that have been aborted since 1948. In the Holocaust, the number says that there was 1.5 million babies killed.
Wow.
Yeah, and we're destroying our own nation through not only by destroying our babies, but the women are grieving and suffering. You know, even a couple of months ago, a young man came up to me and he looked at me and he said, "I've had an abortion," with tears in his eyes. I kind of thought he was teasing, but I said, "What do you mean you've had an abortion?" He said, "My girlfriend and I, we had an abortion on our baby a few years ago, and I'm so sorry now. I don't even know how to live with it." And I just want to say that people grieve when they do this. It's sad for them, and my prayer is that no more innocent blood would be shed in this land. In this land, you know, thousands of years ago, the babies were being given to Moloch, to the idol, in the valley of Ben Hinnom. And God, as a result, caused the people to go into exile to Babylon. God does not like the shedding of innocent blood. He says that we're accountable for that blood, and my prayer is that we would come to realize the preciousness and the uniqueness of every life, and that we would be able to save our babies from what's happening and save our own nation from the judgment of God when we shed the innocent blood.
Mm. So you have a website for people who would like to know more. What is it?
Yeah, our website is www.bead, Bead, Hyme, CHAIM.org.il.